Steph Curry's biggest weakness is that he is too kind and down to earth, and it seems obvious the Warriors front office has exploited this. Imagine a LeBron James-led team having their ownership and general manager boasting about having a 2-timeline plan. I mean, seriously, the Clutch Sports fans would be lined up outside Joe Lacob's house demanding to trade the draft picks. Even look at a star below Steph's level like Jimmy Butler, who, according to multiple top sources like Shams and The Athletic, has grown frustrated the past few seasons with the team making offseason signings for guys like Josh Richardson and Thomas Bryant, while other top contenders like the Celtics made moves for former All-Stars Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. And by the way, I'm not insinuating Jimmy's frustration is unwarranted. He's absolutely in the right to feel that way. I'm only pointing those two examples out to contextualize how crazy it is that Steph seems so content with never being on a contender again. The main inspiration for talking about the Dubs today were Steph, Draymond, and Steve Kerr's recent comments speaking on the team's future. First, listen to Steph here following a brutal loss to the Raptors a few days ago. Their, at the time, 17th loss in the last 24 games.
Desperate trades or desperate, moves that deplete the future. Like, there is a responsibility, and I know, Mike is always on the phone trying to figure it out. That's what a good GM does. Doesn't mean there's a deal on the table, doesn't mean that you're desperate, doesn't mean that you're just flinging, like I said, assets all the way around.
And then Draymond and Steve Kerr also had very interesting comments of their own. Draymond saying about a week ago, the beautiful part about being in the space that we're in is Steve Kerr, Steph Curry, and myself all disagree with merging off the future of this organization, saying that we're going for it right now. Bad teams do that. Bad organizations do that. We're not neither one. And Steve saying, quote, I have 100% faith in our organization to do whatever the right thing is. And sometimes the right thing is to not do anything. We're not giving in, but you have to be realistic organizationally about where you are. And you have to mind what's coming ahead in the future. I probably won't be around, but I would tell you, if this organization gave away the next 6 or 7 drafts for a wild swing, that would be the most irresponsible thing that they could do. Now, the thing is, they're right. No move that's plausible can they make before the February 6th deadline that would make them a contender. But I don't buy for a single second that they don't all resent owner Joe Lacob for the infamous 2-timeline plan that's failed miserably. One guy that I've always loved how he stood up for Steph, Andre Iguodala, stated it perfectly back in May of 2022.
My thing is they really do be thinking it's them and not us. That's Joe and them too. Like, I tell Joe, like, yo, Joe, you do be walking around, fam, like, this is what I did this. And like, they got this narrative now, we got a championship squad, and then they're gonna build another one at the same time that's coming right after us. I'm like, man, y'all know how hard it is, man. And do y'all, like, we see it. It's so hard. We made it look so easy that they think it's like, oh, we about to do it again. I'm like, all right.
Warriors owner Joe Lacob and at the time general manager Bob Myers were over their heads, and from Iggy's comments, sounds like more was Lacob's authority in first drafting James Wiseman with the number 2 pick in 2020. That was the key mistake. The Warriors were gifted an incredible opportunity in 2020 to extend the dynasty, and they blew it by not trading that coveted draft pick for a 28 to 32-year-old star in their prime. Instead, an owner who took over the Warriors in 2010, the least valuable NBA franchise at the time, lacked the perspective of how hard it is to build a contender in the NBA thanks to having number 30 on his roster for over the past decade. And what's so crazy is Iggy predicted the future. He's someone I would love to get his perspective on all that's unfolded present day, because seeing him victory lap and his thoughts now would be really interesting. So back in March of 2022, before they went on to secure that 4th title of the Steph era, Iguodala told The Athletic regarding the Warriors ownership's desire for a 2-timeline plan, it kind of disrespects the former era, but I also don't think you're giving the new era an opportunity to grow and be kids. Throwing that all on them, and it's not deserving. It's just my perspective. Could be wrong. Man, he was spot on. You pair those comments with what he said on his podcast with Steph, and he hit the nail on the head exposing Lacob in the process. And the sad part now is the Warriors probably can't recover from these past decisions. You've wasted 3 seasons. It really should have been the last 5 if not for an heroic type carry from Steph in the 2022 finals versus Boston by not just following the 1 timeline. Like, it's already hard enough to build a contending roster in the NBA by just buying into 1 timeline, let alone 2. I mean, what are Golden State's options at this point? A 35-year-old Jimmy Butler? I mean, Steph is not 33 anymore, he's now 36. And I think this is why you're hearing Steph and Draymond make these comments. They've accepted that there's no longer anything they can do to climb back into contending status. The one player that I think would make things interesting potentially this summer is a 40-year-old LeBron. Cause I don't know, man, maybe I'm delusional about my glorious king, but I feel like him and Steph would be able to cook up some magic. But anyways, going back to Joe Lacob, this dude might be the most spoiled owner of all time, and the fact that he, at least from the outside, doesn't show that gratitude for having Steph is so sick. Cause look, those Andre Iguodala comments were, let's be honest, he's putting Lacob on blast for being over his head about thinking he can pull off this 2-timeline plan, is the proof that lets you know he was a big proponent of this behind the scenes. And if that's the case where he was the driver of this plan, the audacity to not maximize the transcendent star that is quite literally taking your franchise from the least valuable team in basketball in 2009 to the the most valuable in 2025 is so sad. And I know the boom of Silicon Valley is responsible for some of that, and now with them being located in San Francisco rather than Oakland, but Steph, it's no secret, is a huge driver in this number. And Steph knows he's nearing the end. He's had a lot of very cryptic comments this season about his age.
It's okay to accept and acknowledge that the end is near at whatever point, but only because it allows you to enjoy what's happening right now.
Told ESPN's Tim Kwan in another interview, I want to do this for as long as I can, but the clock's ticking. We all know that. And remember his comments over the summer when he emphasized he didn't want to plan a rebuilding team from here on out, where he said, quote, to Mark Spears of Anscape, let's put it this way, it's a long-winded way of saying that if it's a situation where you're a bottom feeder and it's just because you want to stay there, I'd have a hard time with that. But I don't think that's going to be the reality. Well, Steph, I hate to break it to you, but you're on a rebuilding team right now. They might not be as bad as the record indicates from the last 25 games at 8-17 since their 12-3 start, but I mean, this is what, a 42-win team at best that maxes out as a first-round exit? And the problem with Steph, tying back into how I started this video, is he's too nice. So after they finally win a game Wednesday night on national TV versus the Wolves, this is what he has to tell the world at home post-game.
All the Twitter fingers who's got deals that we need to make can kind of just shut up a little bit and let us figure this thing out.
Steph, my guy, I get you're trying to stick up for your GM Mike Dunleavy, but since you can't say it on the inside, we'll say it for you on the outside. They failed you this past summer, they failed you in the summer of 2023, heck, even the summer of 2022 post the chip. Please apply some pressure so they don't fail you again this upcoming summer. I think it's unrealistic to expect that they'll do anything drastic at the deadline, but if they roll out a similar roster next season in 2025-26, we'll be in the year 2026, Steph will be 38 that postseason. Please get him some help.